Now, from the Low Country's news leader, this is Live 5 News.
More people are moving here to South Carolina, and that means different points of view. So what does this mean for where we stand politically? Live 5 investigates if our growth could lead to a political shift.
And more school districts are updating their reopening plans, how schools are continuing to adapt to the pandemic.
Cold tonight, and get this, Ada, we talked about the hurricane, 150 mile an hour winds right now. More on that in our Election Day forecast, live now new at 7.
But first, months of campaigning across the country has come down to this. In exactly 12 hours, polls will be opening across the country in South Carolina for you to cast your vote on Election Day.
But voters across our state aren't waiting. All registered voters could have voted absentee this election, and our state seeing record-breaking numbers.
Matter of fact, more than 1.3 million absentee ballots have been returned. That's about a fourth of the people that actually live in our state.
That's also more than double the ballots returned in the 2016 presidential election. About 35,000 mail-in ballots, though, have not yet been returned. Those are people who applied for them but didn't turn them in yet.
If you are part of this number, you cannot return your mail-in ballot to your polling place. It must be delivered to your county voter registration office, and it has to be done by this time tomorrow, 7 o'clock tomorrow night.
But if you don't want to do that, or say you haven't gotten your mail-in ballot, you still can vote tomorrow in person. It'll just be provisional, but it will count unless you try to turn in your absentee ballot as well.
Don't do both. Right now, voters in Berkeley County still waiting to cast their absentee ballots.
It's now 2 hours past the time that the polls were set to close.
Alexis Simmons has a look at the long lines from today at the voter registration and election headquarters in Moncks Corner.
Berkeley County voters say they came out to vote in person absentee to avoid Election Day crowds. But officials here say they're expecting lines to be shorter tomorrow than they were today. While voting was scheduled to end at 5 p.m., people who were in line before then can still vote. More than 1/3 of registered voters in Berkeley County have already voted by mail or in person, according to election officials. This is the only voting location open today in Berkeley County. Tomorrow, there will be 59.
I've been waiting here approximately 3 hours and decided to vote early because I think it's that important to get out and vote. And I know if this line looks like this today, I can imagine what it's going to be tomorrow.
Over the weekend, some people waited more than 5 hours to vote here. Election officials say it's partly because they have a small office, in addition to social distancing guidelines. They are using a limited number of voting machines. And Berkeley County election officials say they have more than 600 poll workers that will be working across those 59 polling locations in the county. They say they've been able to recruit a lot of new people. Reporting in Berkeley County, I'm Alexis Simmons.
Thank you very much. All polling locations will open tomorrow in Berkeley County and across the state from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m.
To find your precinct, if you don't already know it, head to live5news.com and look under the big red box.
Now, Live 5 News is going to have crews all over the state tomorrow, bringing you team coverage throughout the day, even after the polls close.
We have a big day ahead of us, so be sure to tune in for the most up-to-date numbers. You can find them right here on Live 5 News.
Now, turning our attention to a beautiful evening here across downtown Chucktown. What you can't see out there, though, those chilly temperatures that we've been feeling all day. It really does feel like fall, Lisa.
Chief Meteorologist Bill Walsh tracking those temperatures now that we're into November as well. What can we expect tonight and tomorrow, too, once those polls open?
Yeah, it's going to be pretty cold. Even a little frost on the pumpkin possible of those tender plants back inland parts of Colleton, Dorchester, Berkeley County, inland Georgetown, up into Williamsburg County, even Jasper County. We're looking at some pretty cold numbers overnight tonight, back into the 30s, back over to, say, King Street, 35, 37. Moncks Corner.
Right now at 6, voters all across the country are casting their ballots on who they think will best lead our country.
Here in South Carolina, we already are seeing record-breaking absentee numbers, and with polls open for another hour, it's the last chance for people to make their voices heard.
We have news crews all across the state covering the races that matter to you.
We want to start first in Dorchester County, where election officials say there has been a printing issue with those mail-in ballots.
Nick Reagan was there for that big announcement this afternoon. Nick, the problem affects thousands of voters.
Yeah, there was a printing issue, at least election officials say there was a printing issue that impacted all of the mail-in ballots, and it made it so that the voting machines couldn't read them. Now, that could impact anywhere from 13,500 votes to about 15,000 votes. That's about 13% of all registered voters in this county. Now, Todd Billman, the executive director of voting and elections in this county, he says that they're going to get those ballots reprinted, or at least parts of them reprinted, so that they can be scanned. He says that he wants this to be an incredibly transparent process.
We will begin that process tonight of making copies of all the ballots and or scans of all the ballots, so that we have both like an original and a duplicate. I know a lot of people just are concerned about a process when it changes. So we want to make sure that we keep the process secure.
Now, this ballot problem, this printing issue, did go out to, the same printer that did the ballots for Dorchester County also did ballots in other counties. However, the error only affected Dorchester County. Reporting from election headquarters in Dorchester County, Nick Reagan, Live 5 News.
All right, Nick, thank you very much.
Now to Berkeley County. Paola Tristan Arruda joins us live. Paola, how's it been looking today where you are?
And Bill, the entire time that I've been here at Berkeley High School, I have not seen this place empty. This is usually one of the busier polling locations when it comes to Election Day. Now, when I was inside just a few minutes ago, I did see a steady line of people. People have been coming in and out, but it hasn't been too long of a line like poll workers told me that they saw earlier this morning. One time it actually wrapped around the side of the building. I did get a chance to speak to some voters, some first-time voters, some voters who have been voting for a long time. One voter who told me he was actually Ann McGill's cousin, and I did get to speak to another voter who told me that this is a very important election for him, which is why he came out on Election Day to make that known. Now, there are a few curbside voters that are here now, and people still have about an hour to go and vote. So as long as you're in line by 7 o'clock, you will be eligible to vote if you have that photo ID with you. Now, we will be heading to the election headquarters for when those votes start coming in, and we'll have more updates coming up later on. Reporting live in Berkeley County, I'm Paola Tristan Arruda, Live 5 News.
All right, thanks, Paola. Glad to hear my family members are doing their part in getting out and voting. Our Election Day coverage continues now in Charleston County.
Alexis Simmons has been at some polling locations throughout the day. So, Alexis, are those lines starting to wind down where you are right now?
Well, Bill, there is no line right now, and it's been that way for quite some time here at West Ashley High School. Now, poll workers say they expected a rush, after people got off of work, but like I said, there is no wait time right now to cast your ballot. I want to give you a look at what it looks like in here. We are in the West Ashley High School cafeteria right now, and they have moved their voting into this room to allow for more social distancing. We see a couple of people who are in here casting their ballots. There's about 13 machines, and everything has been running very smooth. Charleston County election officials say more than a half of those registered voters casted their absentee ballots early. So therefore, there wasn't a lot of lines across the county today. I talked with people who came to vote, and they say they were surprised by the fact that they didn't have to wait.
A lot of my friends and family did early voting, so I was expecting a long line, really hustle bustle, and I was actually told to vote super early, but unfortunately I wasn't able to wake up in time, so I was 3 o'clock before coming in, and it was so smooth, very smooth. It's not what I expected.
And it definitely worked in favor for her not to wake up early, because the poll workers say there was a line at the very beginning of the day, but they were able to get everyone very quickly. So of course, by the time she came here to vote, there was no wait at all. I'm live here in Charleston County. Alexis Simmons, Live 5 News.
All right, Alexis, thank you. And if you still haven't been able to make it to your polling place, you still have time.
As long as you are in line by 7 o'clock this evening, you will be allowed to vote. Now remember, you will need to bring a form of photo ID, whether that be your driver's license or your passport.
And just a reminder, you cannot wear political attire when you vote. So leave your candidate hats and T-shirts at home. If you do wear them, you'll be asked to remove them or cover them up. And as we mentioned, we're already seeing record-breaking numbers when it comes to voting absentee here in South Carolina.
More than 1.3 million absentee ballots have been returned by mail and in person. That's more than double, almost triple the number of ballots returned in 2016.
Now, if you have any plans to head out tonight, maybe still to vote, you might want to grab that jacket.
Chief Meteorologist Bill Walsh joining us now. So, Bill, for the folks heading to the polls, how cool is it going to be out there for them tonight?
Not bad. We're in the 50s. It's going to be comfortable, it looks like, over the next couple hours. Definitely going to be dry as you take a look right here. First Alert Super Doppler Max. We have about 55 more minutes until the polls close, and it does look to be quite dry out there, and that's certainly good news.
Our Live 5 election coverage now heads to the 1st District congressional race.
Two people are vying to represent the Low Country tonight. That's incumbent Congressman Joe Cunningham and State Representative Nancy Mace.
Harv Jacobs is in Charleston at a watch party for Congressman Cunningham. Harv, the congressman hoping to win his second term.
Bill, and 2 years ago, Joe Cunningham pulled off what was said to be a remarkable upset. Tonight, he's trying to keep his congressional seat, hoping to defeat, as you said, Republican challenger Nancy Mace. We're at the workshop in Upper King Street. This is where Congressman Cunningham's watch party will be held tonight. They are limiting it to 100 people because of COVID-19 and also to allow for social distancing. This morning, we caught up with Cunningham, and we asked for his thoughts about the presidential race, and here's what he had to say.
You know, we're just asking people to respect the results of the election, no matter which side it falls on, whether or not that's Trump winning or whether or not that's calls for a peaceful transfer of power to President-elect Biden. Either way it comes down, we're asking for people to respect those results.
Cunningham is expected to stop by here between 7:30 and 7:45 to speak to supporters. I am told if we have a winner tonight, he will return later tonight and speak to supporters and also hold a news conference. Live in Charleston at the Cunningham Watch Party, Harv Jacobs, Live 5 News.
All right, Harv, thank you. Lillian Donahue is in Mount Pleasant covering Nancy Mace's push to win that congressional seat.
And Lillian Cunningham flipped that seat to Democrat for the first time in 40 years. Mace is hoping to flip it back tonight.
That's right. She's definitely looking to do that. Now, right now, I'm here at Saltwater Cowboys. That's on Shem Creek. The event is just now starting up here around 6 o'clock, and they're expecting around 100 to 150 people to show up. Now, Mace has had a very busy few days trying to get those last few votes, going to polling places and knocking on doors. Now, campaign officials say that she's knocked on more than 1,000 doors this week in a final push for votes here in that 1st Congressional District. Also, over the weekend, Mace has been touring the Low Country with Senator Lindsey Graham. Latest Federal Election Commission filings show Mace has raised just shy of $5 million, while her competitor Joe Cunningham has raised more than $6 million. This morning, Mace said she's seen a momentum in this final stretch of her campaign, and the turnout today will decide if she takes that seat in Washington. Now, the party is expected to pick up after 7 when those polls end. We'll keep you updated with the latest with this race as we learn more. Reporting live in Mount Pleasant, Lillian Donahue, Live 5 News.
All right, thanks, Lillian. Now, another congressional race that we're watching, House District 6, which covers Columbia and North Charleston.
Incumbent Democratic Congressman Jim Clyburn has served as congressman since 1993. He's also the House Minority Whip.
He's being challenged by Mark Hackett and John McCollum.
It's one of the tightest Senate races in South Carolina history. We'll go live to Columbia, where Senator Lindsey Graham and his Democratic challenger Jamie Harrison await their election results.
Senator Lindsey Graham has represented South Carolina in the U.S. Senate for almost 20 years now.
But Democratic challenger Jamie Harrison is hoping to take that seat away from him. Rob Way joins us live in Columbia right now.
He's keeping an eye on things for us there. Rob?
All good. I'm getting thumbs up everywhere. Everything's clean. Well, I was going to say to you, Bill and Ann, that things were a little quiet.
you can hear right now, they are doing that audio check just to make sure that the microphones are working. And those folks are going to be allowed back in here at 7 o'clock. That's when the event kicks off. And of course, that's when polls close. Senator Graham's camp telling me that they're feeling pretty confident going in tonight. Of course, still 45 minutes left of voting to go. But we, of course, will be watching all of that closely. Graham saying over the weekend that he's never felt better about this race. Now, Graham has served in this role, as many of you know, for 18 years here in the great state of South Carolina, and he's hoping to make that another 6. He's been campaigning across the state, even making some stops in the Low Country over the weekend, saying if he loses this seat, Republicans will lose control of the Senate. The state's Republican Party Chairman Drew McKissick says he's not worried about that and believes we'll know the results before everyone heads to bed.
We've seen that enthusiasm from our base when it comes to those issues, and it has helped us put together the single biggest Republican ground game in the history of the South Carolina Republican Party by a factor of 5, I believe, in terms of door knocks and phone calls, etc. And the Democrats in this cycle basically bailed on doing a ground game because of coronavirus concerns or what have you, and I think they're going to regret that when the night's over.
Senator Graham is hoping to take the stage behind me there in just a few hours as he hopes he can declare victory. We, of course, don't know any results yet. Polls still open, and we, of course, will be watching this race closely and be here for every moment of news to bring you live. Live here in Columbia, Rob Way, Live 5 News.
All right, Rob, thank you. Caitlin Stansel, also in Columbia with Jamie Harrison's campaign.
So, Caitlin, what's it like there?
Well, things are pretty quiet here besides the music that's been playing in the background on and off as the campaign crew is still setting things up, awaiting Jamie Harrison's arrival. We're not expecting him to get here until about 8 o'clock. He's been spending much of the day greeting voters as they wait in line outside their precincts in Richland and Florence counties. And a lot of people are watching this race very closely. This is one of the most hotly contested races in the state of South Carolina right now, not just because of what it could mean for South Carolina, but also nationally. If Jamie Harrison ends up winning this Senate seat, it could help Democrats gain control of the Senate, something that they definitely want. We're live here outside of the Curtiss-Wright hangar where this event is going to take place in just a couple of hours. And it's supposed to be a private event, so only campaign staff, volunteers, and those that have really helped throughout this campaign process. And this is a big race also because of just how much money it has been brought in to support Jamie Harrison and incumbent Senator Lindsey Graham. Jamie Harrison, I just checked the Federal Election Commission. His last report says he had about $108 million in the bank, and he had already spent about $105 million of that. So a lot of people donating in support of Harrison, but he's also spending a lot of that money on this campaign. We're going to be watching closely here from Columbia tonight. Live for now, though, I'm Caitlin Stansel, Live 5 News.
For the South Carolina Senate, we're watching several races for you tonight, including in District 41, which represents parts of Charleston and Dorchester counties. State Senator Sandy Senn is running for re-election. She's held that seat since 2016. Sam Scarden is her challenger.
We're also keeping an eye on several races that affect your children and their schools if you live in Charleston County.
Right now, 16 candidates vying for 5 seats on the Charleston County School Board. We're also tracking several sheriff's office races for you as well. In Charleston County, challenger Kristen Graziano is hoping to become the first woman top cop and unseat longtime Sheriff Al Cannon, who has held that position since 1988. In Colleton County, either Buddy Hill or Alicia Bodison will become the new sheriff. In Dorchester County, the race is between current Sheriff Elsie Knight and Tremaine Moore. And incumbent Sheriff Carter Weaver faces Burt Adams in Georgetown County.
Live 5 News.
New results now showing a razor-thin race for the White House.
A handful of key battleground states still undecided right now at this hour, and those votes are continuing to be tallied right now. 270 is the number of electoral college votes that these candidates need in order to win the White House.
This is where the candidates stand right now with those electoral votes. The Associated Press has former Vice President Joe Biden with 264 and President Trump with 214. Those projections from the Associated Press have Arizona's 11 electoral votes going to Biden.
However, CBS has not yet called the state for President Trump or Vice President Biden. And of course, every vote matters in that race to 270. There are states we are watching for. Georgia with 16 electoral votes on the line. About 99% of those votes are in.
There's also North Carolina with 15 electoral votes and Pennsylvania with 20 up for grabs. President Trump currently leading in all three of those states by either 1 percentage point or less.
We're also watching Nevada, where Joe Biden is currently leading by a point. That's 6 electoral votes there. Again, it's a tight race. The candidates need 270 electoral votes to take the presidency.
A judge in Georgia has dismissed a lawsuit by President Trump's campaign about absentee ballots.
This suit claims elections officials in Chatham County improperly counted ballots received after the state's deadline. Savannah, Georgia is in Chatham County. Sean Evans is at the county's courthouse where that lawsuit was dismissed.
I was in virtual court today, listening in on the hearing being led by Chatham County Superior Court Judge James Bass. Now, both sides, the attorney for the Trump campaign and Georgia GOP and the lawyer representing the county elections officials, were allowed to make their respective cases and call witnesses. The Georgia GOP and Trump campaign called 2 poll watchers to testify. In the suit, the petitioners claim while at the Chatham County Board of Elections facility on November 4th, 2020, Georgia GOP poll watcher witnessed absentee ballots that had not been properly processed, apparently mixed into a pile of absentee ballots that was already set to be tabulated. The proper chain of custody for the ballots was not followed. The Board of Registrar's director and chairman were called to testify in response and told the judge those ballots, 53 altogether, were in fact stamped and received before 7 p.m. on Election Day. Ultimately, the judge dismissed the petition and it was thrown out.
It was particularly vindicating to have a Superior Court judge rule in our favor, which I take as vindication that the hardworking staff members at the Board of Registrars and their counterparts at the Board of Elections are complying with Georgia law in ensuring that this is a process that is secure and has integrity throughout, so that we can ensure the public that their votes are being properly counted.
McCray testified that he actually went to the elections annex this morning and physically checked on each of the 53 ballots in question to make sure that they had been received in time to be counted. Reporting in Savannah, I'm Sean Evans for Gray TV.
Georgia is not the only state the Trump administration filed lawsuits against after the polls closed.
The administration sued Michigan, claiming the Secretary of State was allowed absentee ballots to be counted without teams of bipartisan observers along with challengers. A judge dismissed this lawsuit as well.
A lawsuit filed against Pennsylvania called for a temporary halt in the counting until the campaign was given access to a number of locations and to be allowed to review ballots that had already been opened and processed. And in Nevada, the campaign is claiming voting irregularities, saying there was evidence that votes have been cast under the names of dead people.
The administration has also announced that it will ask for a recount in Wisconsin. By law, an official request has to be made on the first day after final results are out. The state would have to finish it within about 2 weeks.
Well, it is a close race, certainly, but Live 5 News watching even closer for you, bringing you the most up-to-date numbers in the presidential election.
We will have updates in every newscast, even when we're not on the air. You can follow along at live5news.com.
We're not interested in moving as fast as we can. We want to be accurate.
Right now, Georgia remains too close to call.
There's tremendous amount of litigation generally because of how unfair this process was.
I ask everyone to stay calm, all the people to stay calm. The process is working.
We're wrapping up this election week. It has been 3 days since the polls closed, but still the race to the White House too close to call.
Thousands of ballots still being counted tonight, and all eyes watching the electoral votes to see which candidate will get to 270 first. That's how many votes they need to secure the White House.
At this hour, the Associated Press has former Vice President Joe Biden with 264 and President Trump with 214. These projections from the AP have Arizona's 11 electoral votes going to Biden. Now, one of the tightest races we've been watching tonight, Georgia. 16 electoral votes are at stake there.
Tonight, the Associated Press is reporting Biden with a slight lead over President Trump of about 1,500 votes. This is a live look in at that process right there. Georgia's Secretary of State says because of the small margin, there will likely be a recount.
Again, 16 electoral votes are at stake in Georgia. Some of the other undecided races tonight, Nevada, where 6 electoral votes are up for grab. Biden is currently in the lead with about 20,000 votes.
North Carolina currently leaning towards President Trump. That's 15 electoral votes there. And lastly, Pennsylvania with 20 electoral votes. Biden currently with a slight edge.
Tonight, Biden is expected to address the nation as we continue to wait on these ballots to be counted. He's only given a few brief remarks to the public since election night.
His campaign, though, has expressed confidence that he will win enough states to become president. Meanwhile, President Trump claims there's been election fraud. His campaign has brought or threatened lawsuits in several states to try and stop them from counting votes.
The president is raising concerns about absentee ballots, saying officials are counting those cast late or by people who are dead.
I've been talking about mail-in voting for a long time. It's really destroyed our system. It's a corrupt system, and it makes people corrupt even if they aren't by nature. But they become corrupt.
Vice President Mike Pence says he stands with the president and says that every legal vote must be counted. Governor Henry McMaster has echoed those comments. In a statement, he says in part, quote, "I entirely support his efforts to ensure that the law is followed and enforced to the letter. It is only through accuracy and transparency that the American people can have confidence in this election."
Now, several tight races in key states, but Live 5 News watching as those ballots are continuously counted.
We will update you with any new developments in this presidential race. Even when we're not on the air, you can follow along with us at live5news.com.